Hey guys, it's Dave. Hope you're having a good day. It's a pretty great day for me over here. Rocket Lab is up big, and of course we're all enjoying it on the Discord server and on Twitter and everywhere people talk about stocks. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the stock itself, what I think of the current price, what I'm planning to do. I try to avoid giving advice and just limit myself to sharing the facts as well as my own plans without telling you what to do yourself, but I will kind of talk about it a little bit and what I'm thinking about from here, as well as just cover some of the latest updates around the stock that I may not have talked about on this channel yet. If you're new here, I hope you'll consider subscribing by the end of the video. Every new subscriber is very much appreciated, and if you're not, well, I'll check out your comments down below, and those likes always help out as well. All right, let's dive into Rocket Lab's stock. So starting off with the stock price, obviously a great day today. We're up right now around 12%. I'm filming a little earlier because I do have the day off from work, and really today kind of came out of nowhere, if I'm being honest. The company didn't announce any big news, and the overall markets themselves, if we take a look, are flat to slightly down. If we're looking at the S&P, down about 25 bips. So, can't even blame it on the overall markets rising and Rocket Lab rising with it. Just a great day, and sometimes this stock really does move in mysterious ways. It goes up on apparently no news. Often it'll go down on a successful launch or some good news, and it's really just funny, but definitely enjoying the ride here. Now, taking a look a little bit at the technicals, I did draw these lines on the chart the last time I spoke about the stock in a video, saying that it looked like we were on the verge of breaking out of what I considered to be a long-term resistance line. Of course, I'm not the technicals expert, but I do like to take a look at it for some of these really big long-term lines, not so much the short-term resistance and things that change every few weeks. And we did break through, so often when you break through a resistance, it's not going to just move up a little bit and sit above that level. It's going to shoot up when it finally does break out, and that did happen a little bit today, at least, with the stock actually pushing close to $9 per share for a while there. Did drop back a little bit though, and yeah, I guess this resistance could eventually become a support if we do stay above that line. It'll be interesting to see how things progress from here. Heading over to the Wall Street Journal, one thing that was interesting is a lot of people are speculating that maybe this has a little bit to do with shorts starting to capitulate and buy back those positions, cover their shorts. We can see that the short percent of float has been relatively high, sitting at about 18.7%. So that could have something to do with it. Not like an absolutely massive share of the float, but big enough that you could potentially have a squeeze affect it for sure. Hard to say if that's what's going on. There may be a little bit of that at play. Let me know if that's what you think is going on down below. Amit on his stream was also speculating about it. If that's the case, though, I think it would be a little bit odd how the change percentage is up as opposed to down when we're talking about shares sold short, although there could be a little bit of a delay on this data, perhaps. We'll have to keep an eye on that over the next few days. One other thing I do like to keep an eye on here is the RSI Relative Strength Index, just to see how overbought or oversold the stock is looking. It's something I keep an eye on when I try to make my buys. Usually it does work out fairly well. Like if you look when the stock has dipped over into oversold territory, it's generally been a pretty good buy. Right now we are up into the red, which has happened quite rarely in the history of the stock, only back at the peak of July 2023. And it does make me wonder about how much more legs this current run has to go. And I'll talk a little bit about what I'm thinking about doing right now with the stock in a second, but I do think the RSI is something you should keep in mind. We're now at 69. This is on a 3-year chart. If we go to a 1-year chart, the RSI is even higher at 71.6, even further into the red there. Look at a 6-month chart, and yeah, still in the red. So even on a shorter term basis, something to keep an eye on. Even zooming out to a 5-year, we're still quite in the red on that RSI. So yeah, just another data point to keep in mind as you think about what to do with the stock. Also quickly checking in with Ape Wisdom to see if this is a Wall Street bets driven move or something like that, like we had previously. Doesn't really appear to be honest. The stock has moved up a bit in the rankings, up 14 points to be exact. But really, it's a chicken and egg situation. I think a lot of the time these folks will just start talking about whatever stock is rising. So while it's in the top 10, I don't think it's really being driven by them. And I think it's more a matter of them just talking about it because it has gone up. Then hopping over to stock twits, it was appearing in the top 10-ish, I believe, previously. I think number 3. It's now down. So, stock twits, there was a bit more chatter going on, as you would expect with a stock outperforming like Rocket Lab, but it doesn't seem to be a meme stock type move in this case anyway. Now, talking about my own shares, I'm always pretty open with my Rocket Lab shares because if I cover it, I figure I need to be transparent. You can see here that once again, I have 15,190 shares. I bought them for $66,000. The market value now about $132,000. So I pretty much have my double now, which is very nice. I've been looking forward to this milestone for quite some time. So that's one double down. We'll see how many X's we can stack up over the next 5+ years. The leap call option I did make a while back, doing even better. Kind of wish I'd bought more of these. So I put $1,000 into it. It's now worth almost $4,000. Really going to show how those leaps can multiply your returns if you're willing to take on that extra level of risk. Unrealized gains on that one, almost 3,000. Unrealized gains on my main shares, about 66,000, slightly over my cost basis. So there's your double for you right there. So a few thoughts about the stock before we move on to talking about some other Rocket Lab news and what I'm thinking about doing with my shares. I've seen a lot of people continuing to buy, and DCAing or dollar cost averaging is a completely fine strategy. And for myself, I am not adding shares at these levels. You look at, like, say, a 6-month chart where the stock has pretty much doubled in that period of time. And as an investor, I don't usually like to buy when a stock has doubled in that period of time. Luckily, I have a good number of shares and I'm very happy with my share count, so I don't feel the need to add. However, I really did want to add more call options. And, this is one of those things where I'm saying, do as I say, not as I do, because I have my core shares, right? And the call options are just like a cherry on top. But I did want to make a move if the stock dropped. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, but I'm not going to be upset about that because you know what? I feel like no matter how many shares I had, I would have always wanted more. And, no matter how many I bought in the 3s, I would always have wished I bought more no matter what. So, I have a good amount of shares, way more than I originally planned on buying. I have my double, and I'm quite happy about it. And no, I am not buying more at these levels. I think when you see an RSI that high, when you see a stock double in that short period of time, for me, it's not the time to buy. You're welcome to make your own decisions on that, of course. Add some shares if you want to, but I am going to wait. I am going to look for a little bit of a pullback maybe before I consider adding more options or more shares. That's just my own personal strategy here. I will say, though, that I think at times like these in the market's maximum exuberance, Rocket Lab 52-week highs, doubled, overall market's extremely high right now, interest rates dropping, everything going amazing. It's times like this where I see some newer investors get tempted to do things like take on a lot of margin debt and just go crazy with it because you feel so rich and you're like, whatever, I can sell stuff, but you don't realize when the stock drops, suddenly you have less to pay back that margin with and things can get a little risky. So I do want to caution against doing things like that at a time like this. But yeah, I do just want to emphasize a little bit of prudence and to stay calm at times like this. Sometimes the hardest move to do and the best move you make is doing absolutely nothing and just being patient, holding on to your shares, and perhaps waiting for another opportunity to come along. Those are my 2 cents for what they're worth, but let me know down below what you're doing. I'd love to hear how your shares have gone, what trades you've made. Are you selling? Are you adding? Let's continue the discussion down in the comments below. Next up, a few days ago, Rocket Lab did return to flight with some amazing videos here. This flight did have a little bit of a hiccup. They had to have a 0-second abort because there was an issue with the ground sensor. I was not worried at all, didn't make a big deal about it on Twitter. I figured sure enough it would go off in a few days, and it has. And they've returned to that original pad A for the first time in quite a while, as well as apparently upgraded some ground systems that triggered that sensor. So congratulations, Rocket Lab, on another perfect flight. Now, they are also expanding rapidly right now. They are hosting a networking event at their headquarters in Long Beach, California. If you're interested, you can check out their Twitter profile for more information and reserving your spot. The company is hiring rapidly right now. We heard on recent interviews from Adam Spice and Peter Beck, they've now surpassed 2,000 employees. Really a massive growth when you think about where they came from when they went public, starting out with a small outfit out in New Zealand, raising something like $100 million, to coming so far 2,000 plus employees, which is quite a large company these days when you're talking about the space industry. Very exciting to see. If you didn't hear about it, there was a new Form 4 filed by Rocket Lab. They have a new COO, Chief Operations Officer, joining the team. This is Frank Klein. And he's receiving, over a 4-year period, 1,300,000 shares. So if you look at the share price today, that's quite a good bit of compensation. When I first saw this, I was a little bit taken aback by the large number. Again, I'm not an expert in executive compensation, and maybe he's worth every penny, and it's really hard to find good executives here. He will be an important part of the team as a COO, has a lot of experience in mass manufacturing from the auto sector mostly. Most recently came from Rivian, as well as, I believe, Mercedes and a few other companies. And hopefully he can really help spool up mass manufacturing of that space system side as they build more and more satellites, more and more components, as well as bringing online the Neutron. And not just that first rocket, of course, but more importantly, the machine that builds the machine and getting all the systems running smoothly to pump out those Neutron rockets on a regular basis. So it will be some dilution for shareholders, not massive, and you consider it's over a 4-year period, but he is, at least to my eyes, quite well compensated. And yeah, it's a new position on the C-suite level. So I guess, with the company expanding, Peter really needed a new right-hand man handling operations. Some people not too happy with him coming from Rivian, considering the amount of cash they burned and the kind of financial troubles they were in earlier on. We'll have to see, though. I think it's unfair to lay all that at his feet alone. He wasn't the CEO after all. Next up, Peter did join a podcast recently to do another interview. If you're interested in hearing, you can check out Stories from Space. I haven't actually listened to this one myself because I heard from several people that there's not really much new here, so not really high priority. But, it's always interesting listening to Peter and hearing some of his old stories. I've heard it's a lot of stuff that we've heard before on others, but probably worth checking out if you're newer to the stock and want to learn more about Peter, the CEO. The Canadian Space Agency has also awarded Rocket Lab a small contract. This is to develop their next generation star tracker. They will be researching, selecting, and testing commercial components to qualify them for extreme environments. These components would then be used to develop a new star tracker that would work in a broader range of environments. Star Tracker's part of Rocket Lab's components portfolio. So very small, about $1 million. Of course, it's nice, but really it doesn't move the needle for the overall company. Hopefully when they do bring that new product to market, there'll be more demand for it, and I'm sure they'll be using it in their own satellites as well. Rocket Lab also has filed with the FCC to license a suborbital Haste launch for no earlier than December of 2024, obviously in Wallops, where all Haste launches are right now. Filings indicate it will be a single payload, which I don't think is too surprising for Haste. So it looks like we're probably looking at 2 more Haste launches by the end of the year. Checking out Scotto, the, guru for Electron launches. He does follow them much more closely than I do these days. He's expecting 5 launches in Q4, looking at a total manifest of 16 with 14 Electron and 2 Haste launches. He's also expecting 1 more recovery by the end of the year. I don't know if he's he's being stubborn on that or not. We'll see. Personally, it wouldn't shock me if they just expend another recovery booster the way things are going, especially if you didn't see my last video. Turns out margin improvement on recovery is only looking to be about 5%, so not really a massive needle mover there. Going to still update my financial models on that later on. Now, not directly related to Rocket Lab, but Black Sky stock, the Earth observation player, has been in a lot of financial trouble lately. Their stock has absolutely collapsed. They recently had to do a reverse split, meaning say you used to have 10 shares of Black Sky, that would turn into like 2 shares. I forget what the exact ratio was, but it basically reduces the number of shares outstanding in order to artificially increase their stock price in order to stay listed on the stock exchanges. And why did they have to do that? Well, because they had no money and they needed to raise capital. So after they take all these shares off the market, they announce a 40 million public offering to put more shares on the market, hopefully keeping their stock price above that essential $1 level where they can stay listed and having 40 million more dollars to stay afloat. The only reason I'm sharing this is because a lot of people are speculating out there at a valuation of now only something like $100 million. Maybe Black Sky could be an attractive acquisition target. Previously, I would have said no way. I've never thought Rocket Lab is too interested in the Earth observation sector. But recent interviews from Adam have suggested that they're interested in playing in more than one vertical within space applications where they own their own assets on orbit and develop revenue on recurring models. So maybe they would take a flyer on something like that and purchase it for if it's only 100 million, although you do have to remember there is, I believe, significant amounts of debt as well on Black Sky's balance sheet they would have to deal with, which is not always great. Just something to keep in mind, this stock is basically priced for bankruptcy at this point. So I'm going to take a closer look at them some point in the future and see what I think, because if they survive, then I have no doubt the stock will go way up. But there's probably a very good chance they don't survive at this point. So yeah, really just need to do the math on it and see if I think there's a chance that they make it through to being profitable, because I really think like this is the last gasp here. I don't see how they can really raise much more money beyond this. You can't just keep reverse splitting and then offering new shares, reverse splitting, offering new shares. Every time you do it, your stock value takes a plunge and you can raise less and less money. But let me know what you think down below. I know Curtis would be very upset if we bought Black Sky because he is not a fan of the management there. I have to research that myself. But yeah, let me know if you think Rocket Lab should get into Earth observation, if you think this would be a good purchase at these levels, and if you're interested in buying Black Sky stock yourself. Just a couple quick other things to note. I've seen some articles like this lately online as people start to get excited, saying things like Rocket Lab is going to be worth more than SpaceX in 10 years. Frankly, no one's as big of a Rocket Lab bull as I am, or as big of a fan as I am. I've been talking about this stock on YouTube for years at this point. Crazy to think about it. But I do think this is kind of a little bit nonsensical. Like, SpaceX so much bigger than Rocket Lab at this point, and the growth is not slowing down there. And more to the point, Rocket Lab does not need to surpass SpaceX in order to be an absolutely outstanding investment. Even if they got to 1/10 the size of SpaceX, 1/3, 1/2, like even if the fraction grows just a little bit, we're looking at many times bagger. And, let's just not get a little carried away here with saying they're going to be bigger than SpaceX. I don't know about that, especially with all the work going on with, sending people to the moon for NASA, Starship, Starlink. They have a head start on a lot of these things. Yeah, let's especially at times like this, I just like to tone down the exuberance a little bit, at least in my opinion. I'm probably going to piss off a few people by saying that who are really hardcore anti-SpaceX, but that is what it is. I try to keep things rational around here. So that's what we have for today. Amazing day for Rocket Lab stock, although it looks like it's dropping back a little bit. I have now achieved my double for my core Rocket Lab shares. I'm currently not buying, but I'm going to look for a pullback to consider buying when there's a better opportunity. Do let me know down in the comments what you're doing and how you've done on your shares. Always love to hear about it. I think one thing I love most of all is hearing about people who bought in like right close after the SPAC and have been holding it all these years and are finally now in the green. I love those stories. The conviction of holding it so long, finally getting back to break even after a long road. You love to see it. So congratulations to you folks out there that have held all the way since that SPAC. Yeah, hats off to you. That's all I can say on that one. Hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, please consider hitting subscribe as it really helps out with the channel. Those thumbs up are appreciated as well. Hope you guys have a great day, a great rest of the week, and you're enjoying this stock run up in Rocket Lab, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.